It's been a crazy time at Marvel Studios, going from a literal independent studio that was funding their films with more or less pocket change compared to what the other guys had, to releasing the Avengers and changing Hollywood, and ultimately Disney ended up buying them shortly after the release of Iron Man 1. Things are looking better than ever, but let's talk about the giant milestone they just passed. So you guys have probably seen that ever since Disney bought Marvel, which was for around $4 billion. They've made that in pretty much the first couple of years. But going on past that, we now know that they've passed $18 billion in revenue from buying them. So just so we're clear on this, we're talking about since they bought them to everything that they made ever since then. And you have to just kind of look at this and look at the Avengers brand to really understand how far they've come. You know, this year, 2.8 billion, last year, 2.1. Age of Ultron 1.5, the original 1.6. So there was a huge amount of money that was being gambled on this franchise that clearly paid off for them. Now, at the same time, looking at Marvel Studios and how much they have coming down the road, it pretty much tells you all the confidence from Disney lays there with this brand. And just by looking at these numbers and understanding how far they've come in some of the risky franchises that they greenlit and are going to keep going with, they're not looking to slow down at all. Now, with this 18 billion, box office revenue with so many films in there, it's interesting to see how they're positioning the franchise going forward, considering that a lot of the mainstays are now going to be gone. And yes, you have Thor returning, and Thor is guaranteed at this point to be at 1 billion, but then you have Captain Marvel and Black Panther, who each passed 1.1. So how much does their sequel make, and how much are they going to keep, putting those profits forward? And that's kind of the interesting fact, just by looking at the numbers and just by looking at their box office, is how much of a push forward with Marvel Studios are they going to do? And just by looking at Phase 4, you're looking at Disney Plus as a major outlet as well, which is going to account completely differently for revenue for them. But then you look at the film side, and they're taking a lot of risks by greenlighting things that nobody's heard of that's in the general audience. And I think they're hoping that they're going to recreate the same type of success over the course of the next decade. And that's kind of interesting because if they do, let's say hypothetically the next decade goes as good, if not better, you're looking at about 40 billion in revenue in about 20 years for 4 billion that you invested in. Honestly, that's one of the greatest returns you could ever ask for. And that's not even accounting for the action figures, which is a sweet part of that loot, and all the merchandising sales. So yeah, rather interesting. Let's see how the next wave of films does.